I realized something was wrong the moment she texted, "I'm out with Kayla," because Kayla was standing 6 feet from me, helping me choose the ring. Hey friends, please subscribe and turn on notifications, like this video, and leave a comment with your impressions. This will be a great help. Thank you. We never tire of reminding you. It's all thanks to you. I'm 29 and I've never been good at jewelry. I can pick a solid winter coat. I can compare interest rates. I can tell you which contractor is overcharging, but put me in front of a glass case with rings and I turn into a confused child. That's why I asked Kayla for help. Kayla is my girlfriend's best friend. They met in college, survived terrible roommates together, and somehow stayed close even after jobs and apartments in life scattered everyone across Minneapolis. Kayla and I were friendly long before I ever thought about proposing. She's the kind of person who tells you the truth without trying to be cruel, and she's the kind of friend my girlfriend Jenna actually listens to. Jenna and I had been together a little over 3 years. We lived together in a 2-bedroom place near the river. Our life wasn't flashy, but it was steady. We had routines. We cooked on Sundays. We took long walks when the weather was decent. We fought about the dishwasher the same way every normal couple fights about the dishwasher. And for the last 6 months, marriage had been hovering in the background like a song you can't stop hearing. Jenna would point at older couples at the grocery store and say things like, "I want that." She'd send me links to little cabins up north and say, "One day." She'd talk about a backyard we didn't have, and a dog we didn't own yet, and the idea of being a family in a way that made it feel like she was already halfway there. So I started planning. I'd saved up quietly the way you save up for something that matters. I didn't skip rent or anything dramatic. I just cut back, fewer lunches out, less impulse buying, more no without making a big show of it. I also did what you do when you know you're about to make a big decision. I looked at my budget, I checked my credit, I moved some money around to keep it clean, and I set a number that wouldn't put us in a hole. I wasn't trying to impress anyone. I just wanted a ring that looked like a promise, not like a mistake. The plan was simple. Jenna was going to visit her sister on a Saturday. Her sister had a new baby, and Jenna loved being the aunt who showed up with groceries and folded laundry and pretended she wasn't jealous of the tiny socks. While she was gone, I told Kayla to come over. I said I needed her advice. I didn't tell her why over text, because Kayla is smart and Jenna is smarter, and Jenna can read Kayla's face like subtitles. Kayla arrived around noon with a tote bag, coffee in hand, and that look people get when they know you're nervous. "Okay," she said, stepping into our living room. "You're sweating, so this is either a ring or you accidentally adopted a child." I laughed and I felt my shoulders loosen just a little. "Ring," I admitted. She didn't squeal, she didn't make it about herself. She just smiled the way you smile when you're genuinely happy for someone and said, "Finally, Jenna is going to pass out." I had done some research. I had screenshots. I had notes. I had a list of ring styles Jenna liked, based on things she'd pointed out in movies, on friends' hands, on ads she pretended she wasn't looking at. Kayla looked through everything like a professional. "No," she said to one option. "That's too tall. It'll catch on sweaters." "No," she said to another. "That's more Jenna from age 22. She's Jenna from age 27 now." She made me feel like I wasn't completely hopeless, and that alone was worth asking her. After about 45 minutes, Kayla leaned back and said, "We can stare at pictures all day, or we can go see them in person." That made sense. I checked the clock. Jenna had said she'd be at her sister's for most of the day, but most of the day is a phrase that can mean anything. Jenna is spontaneous. Jenna can decide to come home early because she saw a bakery on the way back and wanted to bring me something, like I'm a houseplant she remembers to water. So before Kayla and I left, we needed a time check. I didn't want to sound suspicious. I didn't want to sound like I was monitoring her. I just wanted a window. I texted Jenna, "Hey, I'm thinking about ordering takeout later. What time do you think you'll be home, just so I can time it?" It was a harmless text. It was a normal boyfriend text, the kind of text that fits inside a normal relationship. Jenna responded about 2 minutes later. Probably a few hours, I met up with Kayla. We're out shopping. I read it once, then I read it again, like the words might rearrange themselves into something else. Kayla was standing right there, leaning against the counter, sipping her coffee. I turned my phone toward her. Her eyes dropped to the screen, and her face changed in a way I'd never seen before. Not panic, exactly. More like a sudden blank confusion, like someone had asked her a math question in the middle of a conversation. "What?" she said. "That's what I'm saying," I replied. For a second, neither of us spoke. The air in the kitchen felt too still. Then Kayla set her coffee down and said carefully, "She wrote that she's with me." "Yeah. And I'm with you." "Also, yeah." Kayla reached for her own phone, opened her messages, and scrolled fast. "She hasn't texted me today," she said. "Not once." I stared at Jenna's message like it was a stain. Jenna doesn't lie, not in any serious way. She'll lie about whether she's eaten the last cookie. She'll lie and say she doesn't care where we eat and then veto every option. But actual lies, the kind that matter, it wasn't part of our relationship. And yet, my mind did what minds do when something doesn't make sense. It tried to fill the gap. The first thought was cheating, not because I had proof, but because the internet has trained all of us to jump there like it's a default setting. The second thought was simpler. She made a mistake. Maybe she meant to text someone else. Maybe she typed Kayla's name automatically. Maybe she was half asleep in her sister's guest room, balancing the baby on one arm and her phone on the other. But the problem with the mistake theory is this. Jenna is a careful texter. She rereads, she edits, she sends emojis like punctuation. She doesn't usually send a sentence like that without meaning it. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. Kayla watched me, her face serious now. "Okay," she said softly, "before you spiral, breathe." "I am breathing," I said, but it sounded thin even to me. "Jenna has always been weird about surprises," Kayla added. "Like, aggressively weird. She will lie to your face if she's hiding a birthday present." "That's not comforting," I said. "It's not meant to be comforting," Kayla replied. "It's meant to keep you from assuming the worst without facts." "Facts." I nodded slowly. That was the word that grounded me. Facts, receipts, reality. "Do you think I should ask her right now?" I said. Kayla shook her head. "If you confront her by text, she'll either panic or she'll have time to craft something. If you're going to ask in person." I glanced at the clock again. If Jenna was truly out shopping, she could come home at any moment. I made a decision, not a dramatic one, just a clean one. We weren't going to the jewelry store, not yet. I told Kayla, "Let's not do this today." She looked like she wanted to argue, then she saw my face and didn't. "Okay," she agreed. "What do you want to do?" "I want to know where she was," I said, "and I want to know why she wrote your name." Kayla nodded once, then "That's what you do." She picked up her tote bag and said, "I'll go. I don't want to be here when she comes home. That would make this messier." I walked her to the door, and right before she left, she said, "Just promise me something." "What?" "Don't let your voice get loud. Jenna shuts down when people get loud. Ask her like you're asking for the truth, not like you're delivering a verdict." I swallowed and said, "I can do that." After Kayla left, the apartment felt strangely quiet, the kind of quiet that makes you notice your own thoughts. I cleaned the kitchen because my hands needed something to do. I folded laundry that didn't need folding. I took the trash out even though it wasn't full. Then I sat on the couch with my phone in my hand, staring at Jenna's message, letting the possibilities march past like a line of strangers. I didn't call her, I didn't text again, I didn't do anything impulsive. I waited. At 4:18 p.m., the front door opened. Jenna walked in carrying a reusable grocery bag and a cardboard drink carrier. Her cheeks were pink from the cold. Her hair was pulled into a messy knot, the way it gets when she's been moving around all day. "Hey," she said, kicking her boots off. "I brought you." She stopped mid-sentence when she saw my face. The smile slipped away. "What's wrong?" she asked, instantly alert. I stood up, slow and steady. "I want to ask you about something," I said. Her eyebrows drew together. "Okay." I didn't hold up my phone like a weapon. I didn't wave it around. I just said, "Earlier today, I texted you about takeout." She nodded cautiously. "And you said you were out with Kayla." Jenna's eyes flicked just for a second, a tiny movement, easy to miss if you weren't watching closely. Then she forced a small laugh. "Yeah, we were. Why?" I kept my voice even. Kayla was here, with me, in this apartment. The silence that followed was thick. Jenna's mouth opened slightly, then closed again. She blinked twice, like she needed time for her brain to catch up to the fact that her lie had already been measured against reality. Then she did something that surprised me. She sat down on the edge of the couch and put her head in her hands. "Oh no," she whispered. I stood there, heart hammering, but I didn't move closer. I gave her space, because space is what you give someone who might be about to tell you something real. After a few seconds, she looked up. Her eyes were shiny, not with sadness, but with stress, like someone who just got caught hiding a surprise party and can't decide whether to cry or laugh. "I can explain," she said quickly. "Please do," I replied. Jenna took a deep breath. "First," she said, "I'm not cheating." I didn't react, I just listened. "I know that's where your head went," she continued, "because that's where everyone's head goes, but I swear to you I'm not cheating." I nodded slightly, not as agreement, but as permission to keep going. She wiped her palms on her jeans. "Okay, I lied because I was doing something I didn't want you to know about yet." My stomach tightened. "What kind of something?" Jenna hesitated, then blurted, "I was buying you a snake." I stared at her. "Eh, what?" "A snake," she repeated, and now the words were tumbling out like she couldn't stop them. Not like a huge one, not like an anaconda, just a snake, a pet snake. I felt the tension in my chest shift into something else, something almost ridiculous. Because the truth is, I love snakes. I grew up in rural Wisconsin, where my uncle kept reptiles in big glass tanks in his basement. I was the kid who wasn't afraid to hold the harmless ones. I was the kid who read books about them and watched nature documentaries like they were action movies. When Jenna and I moved in together, I mentioned, casually, that one day I'd love to have a pet snake again. And Jenna, who is brave in most ways, is not brave about snakes. She never screamed or acted childish. She just said, politely and firmly, "I don't think I can live with one." So I let it go, because you don't force your partner to live with something that makes them uncomfortable. You just file it away under maybe later. Now she was sitting on our couch, looking like she'd committed a crime, telling me she'd been buying me the one thing I'd assumed I'd never have in this apartment. "I don't understand," I said honestly. "Why?" Jenna let out a shaky laugh. "Because you've been so good to me," she said, "and I know you've been stressed at work, and you've been talking about marriage in that quiet way you do, and I thought," she stopped, swallowed, "I thought maybe if I could do something big for you, something that shows I listen, then you'd feel seen." I stood there, still processing. "And why lie?" I asked. Jenna groaned and leaned back. "Because I was trying to surprise you," she admitted, "and because I was scared, not of you, of the situation. I went to this reptile store on the other side of town, and the guy there was really helpful, and I held a snake for the first time and I didn't die, and I took a picture because I was proud of myself." Her eyes flicked toward the grocery bag she'd brought in. "And I was going to show you tonight," she said. "I was going to make dinner and then be like, 'By the way,' and then I was going to hand you the photo and the care guide and tell you we could pick it up next weekend." I waited a beat, then asked the simplest question. "What did you tell the store?" Jenna blinked. "What do you mean?" "I mean," I said, "did you pay? Is there a deposit? Is this a real plan or a spontaneous idea that collapses tomorrow?" She looked slightly offended, which honestly made me feel better, because it meant we were back to normal. "It's real," she said. "I put down a deposit. I got a starter kit. The store gave me a list. I did research, like actual research. I watched 3 videos about heat lamps and one of them was 40 minutes long." Despite myself, I let out a breath that sounded like a laugh. Jenna's shoulders dropped a little, like she could finally unclench. Then she said softly, "But I shouldn't have lied, even for this." I walked over and sat in the chair across from her, keeping my posture calm. "You're right," I said, "you shouldn't have." Her eyes widened slightly, like she expected me to make it romantic and dismiss it. "I didn't. Because I meant it." "I'm not mad that you tried to surprise me," I continued. "I'm not mad about the snake. I'm honestly kind of touched, but when you tell me you're with Kayla and Kayla is literally here, my brain goes to places I don't like." Jenna nodded quickly. "I know." And I need to know, I added, that if something feels weird in our relationship, we can talk, even if it ruins a surprise. Her mouth trembled. I know, she repeated. I got so caught up in making it perfect that I did the one thing that makes it not perfect. We sat in silence for a moment. Then Jenna reached into the grocery bag and pulled out a folded paper and a small box. I brought proof, she said weakly, like she was on trial. She held the paper out to me. It was a receipt from a reptile shop with a deposit line item and a date for pickup. She opened the small box. Inside was a digital thermometer and a little pack of something labeled substrate. Then she pulled out her phone and swiped to a photo. It was Jenna smiling nervously, holding a small snake with a pattern like caramel and ink, not the same kind my uncle used to keep, something smaller, calmer, the kind of snake you'd recommend to someone who's new to it. And Jenna looked proud. I stared at the photo, and the last of my panic drained out of me in a way that almost made me lightheaded. You did all this, I said quietly. Jenna nodded. I did. I looked at her, really looked at her, and it hit me how ridiculous my day had become. I had started the afternoon planning a proposal. I had ended up confronting my girlfriend like a detective. And now I was holding a receipt for a snake. I laughed finally, the kind of laugh you can't stop once it starts. Jenna's eyes filled with relief. She laughed too, wiping her cheeks with her sleeve like she hated that she almost cried. I'm sorry, she said again. I believe you, I replied, but we still need a rule. A rule, she asked. Yes, I said, if you ever tell a lie that includes another person's location, you check first, because that's the easiest lie in the world to destroy. Jenna winced. Fair. And also, I added, next time you want to surprise me, you can be vague without being false. You can say, I'm out, not I'm with Kayla. That way you're not building a story that collapses if reality shows up. Jenna nodded hard. That's smart. I paused, then said, is Kayla going to be mad? Jenna covered her face. She's going to roast me alive. Probably, I agreed, but she'll forgive you. Jenna looked up and in a small voice she asked, are you mad? I answered honestly. I was scared, I said. There's a difference. She exhaled slowly, as if she'd been holding her breath all day. That night we ordered takeout anyway. We ate at the coffee table. Jenna kept reaching for my hand like she needed to remind herself I was still there. Later, while she showered, my phone buzzed. It was Kayla. Everything okay? I typed back she wasn't cheating. She was buying me a snake. There was a long pause. Then Kayla replied, of course she was. I stared at that message, amused. When Jenna came out of the bathroom in sweatpants, hair damp, she looked at me with nervous eyes. I have another confession, I said. She froze. What? I stood up and walked to the closet in our bedroom, the one where I'd hidden a small velvet box behind an old pair of boots. Jenna followed me, confused. I turned back to her, box in hand. Her eyes went wide. What is that? She whispered. It's the reason Kayla was here, I said. Jenna's mouth opened, then closed. Then she did something I didn't expect. She laughed. Not a giggle, not a squeal. A full-bodied laugh that sounded like relief and disbelief and joy all at once. You were, she started, then stopped because she couldn't finish the sentence. I was, I said. Today, that was the plan, and then the text happened. Jenna pressed her hands to her cheeks. Oh my God, she said, eyes shining again. Oh my God, I ruined it. You didn't ruin it, I said, because that was true too. You just changed the day. I held the box out. Jenna, I said, keeping my voice steady because I didn't want to make this dramatic. I was going to do this at a nicer moment, but I'm here and you're here, and we just survived the weirdest misunderstanding of our entire relationship. Jenna nodded, tears spilling now without shame. I don't want a perfect story, I continued. I want a real one. Will you marry me? Jenna didn't answer right away. She stepped forward, took the box with shaking hands, and said, yes. Then she threw her arms around my neck, like she'd been holding that yes in her chest for years. When we pulled apart, she looked at me with a watery smile and said, "We're going to tell our kids someday that I almost destroyed our proposal with a snake." I laughed and said, "We're not telling anyone that story until I'm emotionally recovered." 2 weeks later, we went to the reptile shop together. Jenna held my hand the whole time like the building might suddenly fill with snakes. The employee recognized her and greeted her like she was a returning hero. The snake was calm, small, beautiful. Jenna watched me hold it, and I saw something soften in her face. "I can do this," she said, mostly to herself. "You already did," I told her. On the drive home, the terrarium was strapped into the back seat like a precious package. Jenna glanced at it in the rearview mirror and said, "We should name her." "Her?" I asked. Jenna gave me a look. I don't know why, but she feels like a her. I considered it. "Okay," I said. "What do you want to name her?" Jenna smiled. "Something that reminds us to talk to each other," she said. I looked over at her, surprised. "Like what?" I asked. Jenna thought for a moment. "Maybe truth." I laughed. "That's a lot to put on a snake." Jenna shrugged. "Then maybe chance, because you were giving me a chance to explain before you assumed the worst." That landed deeper than I expected. I reached over and squeezed her hand. "Chance it is," I said. That night we sat on the couch, watching the little snake settle into her new home. Jenna leaned her head against my shoulder and said quietly, "I'm going to be better." I didn't say something dramatic. I didn't make a speech. I just replied, "So will I." Because the truth is, relationships don't survive on perfect surprises. They survive on the moments when you could choose fear, but you choose facts instead. When you could choose accusations, but you choose conversation. And sometimes, if you're lucky, the thing you thought was a betrayal is just a badly executed gift, waiting to be understood. If you've ever had a moment where your brain went to the worst place before you had the full story, tell me in the comments how you handled it, because I'm genuinely curious.